You've seen it happen, right? You look at a team that was once on fire, just absolutely crushing it, and you wonder, where did that energy go? That spark, that drive? It's like it just fizzled out. It's a huge challenge for any leader, but here's the thing. Demotivation isn't some kind of dead end. It's really just a puzzle, and it's a puzzle we can solve. This is the question that probably keeps a lot of us up at night. I mean, you can have a team with all the talent in the world, but if that motivation isn't there, all that potential just sits there. So today, we're gonna tackle this head on. We're gonna treat this problem like a puzzle and figure out how we can reignite that fire, piece by piece. So, here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack the motivation puzzle itself. Then, we'll get into diagnosing the disconnect. What's really going on? After that, it's all about practical strategies for engagement. We'll also look at how this applies to modern teams, remote and hybrid setups. And finally, we'll talk about how you can shift your mindset and become an architect of motivation. Okay, first things first, let's be real. Motivation isn't something you just set up once and walk away from. It's this dynamic, living thing that's always in flux. Being a great leader isn't about winding people up like a toy and just letting them go. It's about creating an entire environment where motivation can be constantly nurtured and looked after, especially when things get tricky. All right, let's put on our detective hats for a minute. When a team's drive starts to dip, it's almost never because of one bad apple. That's the easy answer, but it's usually wrong. More often than not, it's a systemic issue. We've got to look past individual performance and start hunting for the real, often hidden barriers that are gumming up the works. So when we look at the usual suspects, they're surprisingly fundamental. First up, unclear goals. It's simple, right? If your team doesn't know where the finish line is, or more importantly, why they should care about it, how can you expect them to run the race? Second, a lack of recognition. This one hits deep. It's tied to something called the Pygmalion effect. Basically, people rise to meet the expectations we set for them. So when you recognize great work, you're not just being nice, you're signaling a high expectation that people will want to live up to. And finally, misaligned leadership practices. This is the big one. It's the ultimate trust killer, when what leaders say and what they actually do are two totally different things. Okay, so we've diagnosed the problems. Now for the good part. Let's talk solutions. Rebuilding motivation isn't about quick fixes or pizza parties. It requires a really deliberate, strategic approach. We're talking about laying a whole new foundation for engagement that's built to last. Big organizational change is like a classic motivation killer, mostly because it just injects so much uncertainty into everything. So the key is to fight that directly. First, you've got to reinforce purpose. That means constantly connecting whatever change is happening back to the bigger mission. Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve here? Second, provide stability. In a sea of chaos, you need to be the anchor. Keep your communication, your check-ins, everything. Keep it predictable. And third, build trust. This means being almost radically transparent about what you know and, just as importantly, what you don't know. Trust is the only currency that really matters when things are turbulent. The workplace has totally changed, right? So our leadership styles have to change with it. Motivating diverse teams, especially teams that are remote or hybrid, comes with a whole new set of challenges that frankly requires a modern, more intentional toolkit. The old way of thinking, out of sight, out of mind, was easy, I guess, but it was also a recipe for disaster. It just led to people feeling isolated and completely disengaged. The new reality is that remote teams don't just stay motivated by accident. It takes a proactive, deliberate effort from leadership to bridge that physical distance with real psychological connection. So how do we actually build that connection? Well, it pretty much boils down to these three things. First, proactive communication. This means you got to shift from just giving updates when something happens to creating a regular, predictable rhythm of connection. Second, intentional inclusion. This is all about actively fighting proximity bias. That natural human tendency to favor the people we see in person more often. It means you have to build systems to make sure every single voice gets heard, no matter where they're logging in from. And finally, leadership adaptability. This is about tailoring your approach to the person, not trying to force everyone into some one-size-fits-all box. And all of this leads us to this really powerful shift in mindset. It's time to move beyond simply managing tasks and start thinking about intentionally designing an environment where motivation can thrive. It's time to stop being a firefighter, always reacting to problems, and start being an architect who actually prevents them from happening in the first place. So what does it really mean to be an architect of motivation? It means you're not just a manager, you're a builder. You start to see the root causes of demotivation not as someone's personal failing, but as a design flaw in the system. And then you get to work. You proactively build a framework of purpose, trust, and recognition. These are the core pillars that make a team not just motivated for a week or two, but truly resilient. This table basically connects all the dots for us. It's the architect's blueprint for action. When you're facing the challenge of unclear goals, the solution is to constantly, relentlessly reinforce purpose. To fight back against a lack of recognition, the architect builds a whole culture of trust where appreciation is just how things are done. And when you're staring down disruptive change, you provide that rock-solid stability. It's a clear, direct plan for building a much stronger team structure. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question. You now have the tools, you have the mindset of an architect. So think about your team, their unique challenges, their strengths. What is the very first, most impactful blueprint you're going to draw up to design a more resilient, more motivated environment for them?